And we are live on the pre-show.
Okay.
Everybody, this is Dan Miall
Hi.
from BirdDog, and we've got about 55 or 60 people watching between YouTube and Facebook. And let's go ahead and bring our Periscope folks on board. So we'll start that stream. And yeah, Dan, that should give you the chat room. Let's see,
I've got it up here. It's on a separate tab, but I can definitely see.
Yeah. So
Yep,
Dave and Dan and Joe and Tommy and Al and Frank and Byron and Mike Latta. Kane Peterson is with New Tech. He works with the NDI at New Tech.
Hey, Kane.
You know Kane. Prashana is in Nepal, where it's earlier in the morning than for you. It's like 2:30 in the morning in Nepal.
Ooh, you're brave.
Timothy, Edward Ford is in the house, and Edward is the one that sent me his BirdDog, so I would have something to show off while you were here. So big shout out to Edward. Kyle Gunderman, Kyle's school just got VMix from us this week. Jens and Bill and Peter and John and Tess from PTZ Optics. Rod and Martin, both from the UK. Kenny and Ken and Giles from the UK. Dave and Indrit. Rudy is from Belgium. Johnny and Chris Kritz, I think, is UK. Paul is definitely UK. Jan is in he's Danish, but he's in Sweden, as is the wife. That's his wife Marie, and Jerome and Henry. So that's everybody that's in chat right now. Now, if you are watching and you're saying, where what is this chat he keeps talking about? Well, you need to go over to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click the Watch Live tab, and that'll get you the chat and the video, because there's going to be so much chat going on, especially with Dan here. So do that. And if you're watching on Periscope and you're watching on your phone, just hang in there and watch on Periscope. It'll be great. And we'll try to explain as much stuff as we can. Dan, you ready?
I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right. Do you have one of those adjustable chairs like I do?
I do, yes. Where would you like me to go?
I would like you must sit up straight here. We're very proper on this show. No, the idea is that there's very little headroom here. That's what Martin K taught me. He said you want a little headroom as we possibly can. Oh no, you were fine the other way. Okay. No, we want just a little bit of headroom here. Yeah, there you go. And as the show goes on, I tend to slump and slouch, so I got to remember to sit up straight. And
I'll keep an eye on that. Thank you.
And project. Yeah. Okay. And folks, Dan and I worked all this stuff out last night, and we had a beautiful setup, and he was sending 720p, and it was pristine, and he had this great mic, and he came into the shop this morning, and what did you find, Dan?
Unfortunately, all the lights were out, and the internet hasn't been able to be connected, so I'm going through my cell phone at the moment, which is really best laid plans. But hey, show goes on.
The show goes on, and the show goes on. I mean, it's great. It's great. Okay, well, let's go into we're a little over time here with pre-show, but that's okay. And again, folks, if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube directly, or Twitter or Periscope, and you want to come in and see the chat, do I have anything that shows what the chat looks like? Golly gee, let's see. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's a shot. This is the chat over here. This is the chat. So you get to see the chat if you are in easternshorebroadcasting.com, right down there at the bottom, /watch live. Come on over, join the chat, have some fun. It will be really, really good. All right, Dan, I am going to mute your mic for a moment, and we're going to go into the show and then do the little monologue part that we talked about. And then when I do your intro, I've got that really cool video that you sent me. And so I want to do that as kind of the intro, and then I'll bring you and I in together. So just so when I introduce you and it's not you, you won't be surprised. All right. I think we might be able to pull this off.
Let's try.
We'll see. That's right. We'll try. Okay. Let's mute Dan. Nope, that's me. we got Dan muted. Okay. And we are going to fade to black, and we're going to go. This is going to be fun. All right. Be right back. Hey, welcome. I'm Tom Sinclair, and you have made it to Streaming Idiots. Yes, you have. We are live every Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock Eastern here at easternshorebroadcasting.com. And, over here. And I would remind you, if you're watching on YouTube directly, Facebook, Twitter, or Periscope, and you want to come in and get in on the chat, we've got 4 or 5 dozen folks in chat right now, and we'd love to have you do that. Go to easternshorebroadcasting.com and click Watch Live, and you can get in on the chat, too. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm so excited about my guest today. Dan Miall from BirdDog down in Australia is in the green room, as they say, warming up, and we're going to get to Dan in just a second. If you've got questions about BirdDog, what is BirdDog? Well, we'll get into that too. It's NDI's best friend. How about that? It's NDI's best friend. So by all means, go to the chat and check it out there, and then hang out and get ready for a great show. And oh, by the way, if you have to leave early, you can come back later to Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and watch the rest of the show. But you want to make sure, excuse me, I need some lemonade here. Sorry about that, real quick. Oh, lemonade is the best. Lemonade is almost as good as Dum Dums. Thank you, Ken. No, if you get interrupted and you miss the show and you say, oh, the show's probably over, come back, because we may be in the post show. And sometimes the post show is even better than the show. So, and if you're watching the show, stick around for the post show. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, here we go. Streaming Idiots is a great little, of course, it's a great little show. We are entering our 6th year of weekly streaming, and it's really, really been excited. I'm so excited about our Facebook group right down there, facebook.com/groups/streaming idiots. We hit 900 members this week. Yay, 900. And it is the best group I've ever been a part of. There's always something going on. I mean, 24/7. It's addictive, with folks showing what they're doing with their streaming setups, asking questions. People are posting links to new products, and they're discussing them. It's really active. If you're into streaming, you want to join the Streaming Idiots Facebook group. It definitely, or at least come take a look at it. I think you'll enjoy it. I think you'll be a member. So Udall's here. I see. Welcome, Udall. Glad to have you. And today, before we get to Dan, a couple of notes. Number one is we have, for those of you that are watching live today, if you send me an email today, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, today, Wednesday, August 30th, August 30th, I will send you a coupon good for a special deal. I can't tell you what the deal is because I've signed a contract saying I can't advertise lower than the mandatory advertised price, or whatever the MAP stands for. But I've got the X Keys XK24 on a one day today only deal. So if you've been meaning to buy an X Keys XK24, you want to shoot me an email, tom@easternshorebroadcasting.com, and I will send you a coupon code good for the purchase of the X Keys, only on our website, easternshorebroadcasting.com. So if you've been waiting, now's your time. Today's the day, as they say. Today's the day. Today, this show is just a giant infomercial. Yes, it is. I confess. But we're hoping that it's an infomercial, okay? The small mercial and the big info. Couple of pieces of info that I found. When Dan and I were actually working on our vMix call last night, which was, of course, was Wednesday morning for him and Tuesday evening for me. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, we weren't able to connect at 1080p through vMix to vMix call. And I sent an email to Martin Sinclair, the developer of vMix. I said, Martin, is this a bug? What's going on? And he said, well, this is the way it works. If you can't get a stable connection, if there's not enough internet uplink on the client side, not the host side, which is me, but if you don't have a solid 4 megabits per second upload link, then it will simply show one frame, and then when you go to the statistics in vMix Call, it'll say that no frames are being sent. And sure enough, when we dropped it back to 720p, it worked just fine, but it wouldn't support 1080. So if you're doing a vMix to vMix call, vMix call to vMix call, and you're suffering with this all of a sudden freeze frame, that means that whatever bandwidth you're using or your guest is using is not sufficient. And they're going to need to drop back. It won't, if it's vMix to vMix, it won't drop back automatically. If you're using a browser on one end, yeah, the browser will drop you back. Also to note that vMix just released yesterday a new beta to vMix 20, vMix 20.0.0.24. And the two things that were of note to me, well, let me bring this in because really this is from the vMix forum. And you see that the vMix 2X preview update has been posted. That link will get you the new beta if you're interested, or you can go to the vMix forum, which is forums.vmix.com, and go to the general section. You'll see the links there. But the top and the bottom of those features are the ones that I thought were the most important, and then there's a hint buried in there. The top one says that it's added support for the X-Keys XK68 jog shuttle controller. Well, that's pretty important because there are a lot of folks out there that would like to use that for instant replay. And then the last one down at the bottom is that he's fixed a couple of bugs in the vMix call that may have caused problems during very long calls, 6 hours or more. So I thought that would be interesting to know on that. But buried in there is one that says 4K streaming presets added. Now, that's so small that you almost wouldn't notice it. 4K streaming presets added. That is going to be the big thing. Now, is that going to be a big thing in vMix vMix 2X so far as a major feature? No. But I think we're going to see vMix become more and more 4K oriented now that YouTube is becoming more and more 4K oriented, with a lot of YouTube video producers uploading 4K video. vMix is on the bleeding edge. Those guys down there, they bleed on a regular basis. You know, they're knocking their heads on the wall, against the wall sometimes, trying to figure out things that other people are watching and waiting to see how vMix did it so that they can implement it later, like NDI or vMix Call or something like that. So keep your eye out. vMix 20 is due out next month. We'll see. So that's going to be a really, really, really interesting thing. Okay, well, now enough of that. Let's set the stage here. About a year and 4 months ago, I was at NDI, at NAB in Las Vegas, where NDI was announced, and where, of course, vMix announced vMix 17, which had NDI in it, which was just groundbreaking, I thought. And there was also rumors on the floor at NAB that there was this new creature out there that would take a camera video and would convert it to NDI. I mean, this is something that could mount right on the camera. And everybody was looking around and, did anybody have one? Could anybody find one? When were they shipping? There was all this buzz. And the buzz has continued. And long story short, they're shipping. they're here. We've got one. And I reached out to the custodian at BirdDog TV, to the janitor, and he wasn't available. So he sent me his assistant, Dan Miall. from BirdDog, and I tease Dan because he's just so teasable. Anyway, so Dan is going to come on, but I thought before we did, we would run this little clip and let you see what BirdDog has to say about BirdDog. So we'll bring Dan in right after this. Oh yeah, that was great. Welcome, Dan. Glad to have you. All right.
Glad to be here, Tom.
What a cool piece
NDI
of video.
I love it.
So it's like 5:15 in the morning there in Australia.
It certainly is, and I know every minute of that 15 minutes past 5.
Well, thank you so much for getting up so early in the morning and coming on the show. We've got a great audience. We got about 50 in the chat room, another couple of dozen watching on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube directly. And oh, by the way, guys, if you want to get in on the chat, come to easternshorebroadcasting.com, click Watch Live, and you can see the chat too. But Dan, enough about that. You know, this guy is a story right here. This guy is a story. There is so much in this story. I can't wait to hear it all, or at least the condensed version of it. But you got to start. Let's start at the beginning, because we always start at the beginning on this show. There was a time in your life that you did not know about live streaming, and then a minute later you did. Tell me about that time for you.
You know what? I've been involved with live streaming for a really long time. Longer than I probably care to admit. My first job out of school, which was a couple of decades ago, was when video cards first started coming out with computers. So it was when we could finally capture video into a computer. So from that moment onwards, really, streaming was kind of a dream that was going to happen at some point. And over that time, internet got better and the platforms like YouTube came up, and there was a whole bunch of things that kind of came along. But really, it was heading that way really from the start of my career. The moment I got into real work was with computers doing video production. So the first one could capture like 320 by 240 pixels. It was tiny, and it took 3 days to set up. But hey, it's come a long way. We've got the little BirdDog boxes now. So.
Yeah, the little BirdDog boxes. Well, when did the idea for this come about? You woke up one day and you said, I'm going to spend millions of dollars and develop something that fits in the palm of your hand?
Yeah. So really with BirdDog, what came up with that is we were really lucky to hear about NDI quite early on. So as soon as we heard about it, it's like, wow, this is a great new format. It really could change the way production's done. But as we started to think about how that would work, you could run it from a computer to another computer. You could go from a rack to another rack. But really, it would make a whole lot more sense if you get it from the camera. The advantage of NDI or any IP is the sooner you can get it into that production format, the better. The closer to the glass, as people like to say. So the moment we kind of had that thought, it was then, well, that's great. Someone really should do this. Unfortunately, it was left to us. So for better or for worse. Yeah. So that kind of was the embarkation of the journey, and it seemed like a really good idea that we thought, how long could it take? It should be 4-6 months we could get this thing out. As you mentioned, it is a significantly longer amount of time than that, but actually along that way we've put a lot more in, and it's become a much better product for that. So hopefully we can talk a bit more about that later on today. But so the idea of BirdDog came around relatively quickly, and then and then going through how we could actually implement that led to NAB last year, 2016, where we thought we'd test the market and see, are we crazy? Is the idea of an NDI style of camera back something interesting? And we were just blown away by the interest that we got from it. And then leading out from there was the last 12 months of getting it out to market, and a lot of emails of people asking, when can I have it?
Yes. Yes, you've been flamed quite a bit in our chat room over the last 12 months or so. I won't share the names of anybody that's let's see, I see them in the chat room right now. They're probably going to have to apologize to you before the end of the show. So where did you come up with the idea for the name BirdDog? I mean, that's
actually an interesting one, because we're trying to think of something that's memorable. If we just called it a NDI, I don't know, 2.3 or something, it's kind of forgettable, and it just becomes a thing. What we like is something that people can just say, hey, you just need to grab a BirdDog and do it. And that was kind of, we're looking for for something that's memorable. And then I was sort of hunting around for sidekick sort of analogies, and I came up with BirdDog, which is a hunting term for if you have a dog that helps you out. It's your sidekick, and it's called a BirdDog. And the moment we came across that kind of term, the logo just came into my mind, and that's where it came from. We had to have that logo.
That's awesome.
It's a little crazy, but it's good. Yeah.
BirdDog is going to be NDI's best friend, no doubt. Yep.
I like that term. Yeah.
Yep. No, you heard it first here. Well, maybe you didn't, but. So okay, so you've got this great box, and people can go, I've got some graphics here that we can cut to that show the BirdDog, the inputs and the outputs, but you really need to go to Dan's website to get a closer look at all this kind of stuff. There's some amazing features in it. It's got tally lights built into it. It's got SDI in and out. It's got HDMI in and out. It'll take internet power over Ethernet. It's got a really cool box. I mean, if nothing else, gee whiz, these guys have. Oh, there he is. He's back. All right, Dan, can you hear me? Dan, can you hear me?
Hey, I'm back.
There he is. Okay, very good, very good. All right, so I've got this BirdDog, and tell me about it. What do I need to know if I'm gonna make this work in the next 10 minutes? What do I have to do? Because I can make it work in the next 10 minutes, right?
You can, absolutely. I've got one here as well, so we can kind of plug them together somehow. But essentially, the way it's designed to work is outside of the box. You literally just plug it in. It's see if we can get it close enough. It's power over Ethernet. So if you have that infrastructure in your building, it's simply a matter of just plugging in that one cord, and that gives you power. It turns the unit on. It pops up with a little light saying startup. And if you have a network that will automatically give an IP address or an address to a device, this thing will just automatically fire up. The moment you give it a video source, it's available for you to use on your vMix, on your TriCaster, on a Wirecast, whatever supports NDI. And it literally is that quick to do. You plug it in, it'll turn on. It takes around about 15 seconds to turn on, and you're good to go. It'll automatically detect what video rates you have, and it'll just present itself in. So it's designed really to be that true plug it in and use it, plug and play if you like. Just take it out of the box and you can use it straight away. And we spent quite a bit of time on that. We thought we could imagine a production in the middle of some disaster just going, we need another camera, how do we get that? And just grabbing a BirdDog off the shelf, plugging it in and knowing that it's just going to come up. And it needs to be that similar to an SDI experience. You need to be able to just plug this thing in and use it. Otherwise it becomes something that's more heavily managed, which is not really what we want.
Now, I have a wireless Ethernet setup here. I'm going to try that with this before I send this back to Edward Ford, who loaned it to me. Thank you, Edward. Because this could become, you could get wireless NDI if you had enough. Well, the wireless will support it. It's not Wi-Fi. It's a portable radio of some kind. Anyway, that's off subject. So tell me. All right, tell me about now. This is NDI 2.0. I mean, this is full NDI, the new tech, full implementation of NDI. Correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it's actually it will be very shortly NDI 3.0 as well, and I think this maybe is something that's worth clarifying.
Please do.
NDI has multiple formats within it now. So with NDI 3.0, they announced a new format called NDI HX, but it also has some updates to NDI as we knew it before. So NDI version 2 and NDI version 1. So really with NDI, what we have now is an ecosystem that allows you to work in whatever infrastructure is available in your building. With BirdDog, we work with the high bitrate NDI format, which is what was in the NDI standard right from the beginning. So as of 2016, when NDI was first announced, it's a 100 megabits or so video stream that's designed to be really high quality and really low latency. And so we work within that format, and we support everything that is in version 2 or 2.0 of NDI, and we're actually starting to add in the 3.0 features. So they are things like multicast, there's network timing, and a whole bunch of other improvements that come along as well. But yeah, so the idea with BirdDog is it's a no compromise, high quality version of an NDI implementation, and we spent a long time, as everyone can attest to getting that right. And that's all about how we kind of process everything inside the box. There's a pretty smart goes in there that's been completely designed by us from the ground up, called an FPGA that we've written everything to work with NDI in there from the ground up.
Uh-huh. FPGA, yeah. Okay, I got that. No problem. Yep. I've been doing those for a while myself.
Yeah, they're easy things.
So, all right, going back to the marketing strategy that you guys used to create this giant demand for this product and then just simply say, no, you can't have it yet. I think that's brilliant. I think you guys are absolutely brilliant. Because people are out there, and it does nothing but create this buzz and create this hunger for the product. And they are going to be flying out of the B&H photos and Amazons or wherever they're going to be available. I think it's going to be a smashing success. Now, if I want to get the whatever you guys implement of NDI 3.0 in here, it's just going to be a firmware upgrade.
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up. So the idea with this is what the unit does now. So you have one there that it'll create NDI video. It takes SDI or HDMI up to 1080 60p, and it makes NDI really fast and it works well. But we've got so much more planned for BirdDog, and that's all done by a firmware update. So there's a little web interface that you can use within the BirdDog that allows you to just download a file from our website and just add extra features and just.
Giles is asking the same thing: is will it implement NDI 3.0 fully? That is, will it have NDI Lite or NDI HX available in it? So we'll see when we get him back shortly. Bless his heart, he's burning up all his bandwidth in his phone. There he is. Dan's back.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Where did I get to with the firmware updates? Did we go? Should I start from the top with that?
You were, start at the top for that. Just let's go through it again.
Sure thing. So within the BirdDog, there's a little web interface that allows you to download a firmware update file, which basically creates a whole new BirdDog. It gives you more features and adds extra functionality. Some of those things that we'll be adding really soon are cross-converting. So within the box, we're able to take SDI and convert out to HDMI. So it's a mini converter built in. And vice versa. And we're also very shortly going to be announcing the decode NDI as well. So we're working on that at the moment. Hopefully sometime. We don't have an exact date for that, but the idea with this is it is a true camera back, so it will eventually have a return feed as well.
Really? Okay, well, obviously it's got some sort of return because it's got a tally light on it.
Yeah. And that's actually a cool thing as well. The tally, there's been a few questions about that when people are looking at BirdDog and NDI in general. Tally is automatically configured with NDI, and that's a really cool feature. If anyone's set up a production before and tried to integrate Tally, it can take as long as trying to get the video production in there, so or the video feeds. So Tally just being zero configuration out of the box is great.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Okay, so are you going to be able to put an intercom on this thing too?
That's a very good question, and I think we'll have some more announcements on that at IBC. So I can't say too much more, but there's definitely a headset connection there, and
I saw that.
Definitely some
Yeah.
news to come on that. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a full headset. That's not just a monitor. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
It
sharp
has a
eyes there.
little mic thing coming off there. Yeah, yeah. Oh wow. Okay. All right. So a couple questions from the chat room. We're going to save most of the questions for the post show, but and I was wondering this too. When as you begin to implement NDI 3.0 features, are you going to implement the HX as well, the NDI Lite?
That's a good question. It's something we're exploring.
Okay.
NDI HX, as you know, is new, and for us, we do everything in hardware. It's not a software device. So if we were to implement HX, it would mean that we need to implement that into our hardware, which is no small feat. And as we can attest to over the last 12 months, trying to get this operational inside such a small compact box does take some time. So
Sure.
at this stage, we're sticking with NDI in its full bitrate or high bitrate format. And I think for a lot of productions, that actually makes a whole lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still absolutely a valid format, given the fact that NDI 3 absolutely supports it and actually defaults to the full bitrate unless you have a lower bandwidth connection.
Mm-hmm.
But look, over time, we're looking at what we can do with that. The box is flexible; we can reprogram what it can do. So
Right.
so we'll let people know what happens with that.
What about 4K?
4K. This box is a HD 1080/60p, so it's designed to work in that environment. 4K is obviously where everything's going. We just mentioned that about the new vMix, which supports 4K streaming, which is cool. With 4K, I think over time we'll definitely come out with a solution. But right now, to get to a price point that we think is pretty fair for what this thing does, to include 4K would have just tipped it over that sort of that level that people would have been comfortable with. And right now, I think 1080/60p is a really good format.
I think that's a great format. I mean, I can see this being used in sports all over the place. Holy cow. I've got to run one wire to my camera, and
Yep.
and that's it. And with this little
That's the idea.
weeny little headphone icon thingy right there, it becomes an incredible solution in one box. And it'll take a camera that's SDI or HDMI, plus it'll output to a monitor. Wow. And then it's got, what do they call this? The 820? What's the little threaded connection here on the bottom?
Yeah, it's got the quarter 20 threads.
Quarter 20,
So with
yeah.
those, that allows you to mount it onto a few things. It has some through holes that go on the front face as well. I'll see if I can bring it up there. So you can actually connect through there onto a cheese plate type arrangement. And
Right.
also at IBC,
Cheese.
we'll be showing a camera mounting solution which goes into a hot shoe as well.
All right,
So you can
whoa.
just
Stop.
poke it on top of your camera.
It's this Australian English stuff that you guys are using on us again. What is a cheese plate? Is that like
let's
a
go back
pegboard?
to the cheese plate. Kinda. So a cheese plate is it's sort of, once I explain it, it'll make a whole lot of sense. It's a bit of aluminum, as you say, which has a whole bunch of holes in it with threads that
No,
allow you to
stop
mount different
again.
things
Stop again. Don't say aluminum as I say it. Say it as you say it. It's beautiful the way you say it. I can't say it that way.
on it. Aluminium. It's got an extra eye. So,
Yes. All right. So we take a piece
so
of that.
it's an aluminium plate that's got a piece of cheese plate, and that allows you to connect different devices that have got different thread spacing onto a camera. So it's a really handy way to mount different things onto a camera without having to have too many magic arms and things hanging off all over the place. So you can use one of those, or we'll also be showing a camera hot shoe mount as well at IBC. So that allows you to mount it horizontally on the front of your camera, and it'll give you exactly just like that. Yep.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So there's a solution for that too.
Okay. Yeah, I could see where that would happen pretty easily. I've got a buddy named R.J. Murdoch that does all sorts of things. He'll take a piece of what we call pegboard here in the U.S. It's a piece of board, has lots of teeny holes in it, and he'll strap everything to a piece of pegboard and pre-wire it, and then just throw the pegboard in its case, bring it out, and plug everything in, and it makes putting it together just so much easier. Yeah. In fact, he's actually doing some camera work for the Weather Channel over in Houston for the big flood that we've got in Texas right now.
You've had some big weather there.
Oh yeah. So they say it's 3 times as bad as Katrina, which was the worst thing that anybody had ever seen 10 or 15 years ago. Okay, so tell me, if I want to buy one of these today, and you're in Australia, how are you going to send it to me? Or do you have people in the U.S. that sell these?
We know people.
You know people.
Yeah. So as far as shipping, you've got one there. I've got one here. There's a bunch of them out there, but we're just tooling up at the moment. So if you walk into your local video retailer, you're not going to find them on the shelf just yet.
Okay.
They're really close. As in very, very close. We have distribution. So you mentioned some of the kind of regular outlets like B&H and places like that. But right now, Broadfield are our distributor. So so Broadfield based out of New York as well.
Okay, so if you're a reseller like me and you're interested in putting this into your lineup, you would contact Broadfield to add it to your lineup.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good deal. Awesome. Outstanding. Well, I've played with this just a little bit. I didn't want to play with it too much until I got you on. But I can't wait. Oh, it's got USB on it. What's the USB for?
Yeah. So USB is for a few things. The first thing we have is actually for PTZ control. So it allows you to plug a USB to Ethernet adapter in there, and that gives you a second network port. So much like we have the Ethernet going into BirdDog, which allows you to power the device and run everything through that one cable, wouldn't it be great if you could plug one other device into that network cable too? And that's where we've got that USB port there for. So that converts it to another Ethernet connection, so you can go to a PTZ or some other camera that requires a network connection to be able to see it. And then that becomes available on your network like it was directly plugged in. So it allows you to plug an extra thing in just through that one cable.
Okay, so I'm taking my PTZ camera, I'm taking the network connection on that, I'm plugging it into a USB network adapter right here. And then the network adapter right
Everything
here.
goes down the one cable.
Everything goes down that wire.
You got it.
That is so cool. That you guys have thought of everything. This is amazing.
We also try to, we've also checked it out. You can stream NDI down there as well. So if you had 2 networks, for example, that you wanted to receive the signal from a BirdDog, one could go down the built-in Ethernet, the other one could go down through that USB adapter.
Of course. Oh, that's awesome. And this is not a cheap plastic box either, though. This is heavy-duty stuff. I mean, I could probably drop this onto concrete if it didn't belong to Edward, and it would
That's what we kind of
imagine basically with it, we want people to be able to use it like a bit of production gear. If it happens to get dropped, things happen. Mm-hmm. And that was really where that design with the SDI cables inset is that you're not going to land on those SDI cables if you do happen to drop it. We kind of we surmise that you could probably drive over it with a car. We haven't tried it yet because I think people want every BirdDog we could use. And please don't try it at home. But
it's not mine. Edward's in the chat going, no. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. What else? What else? What else?
What else? Look, I think from here it's really about just expanding some of the features and functions of it. So
What we have talked about is fleet management. So the ability to control multiple bird dogs on a network, because right now you log into each web interface and you can mess around with it and give it a name and update firmware and do whatever you'd like to do with the configuration. What we're wanting to do is actually have profiles that you can save on a computer, push it out to a flock, I suppose, of bird dogs. So if you've got multiple cameras in a production, that maybe the morning show, its faces are called by the camera guys, but the after or something. So it might be Cam one day, it might be Bob the next, or whatever. And we want to be able to load up a whole profile for a studio just by pressing one button.
Awesome.
And you'll see some software coming for that. And we've got a whole bunch of other surprises as well. Like I said, there's a lot that this thing can do, and we've really designed it to keep adding more things as it goes along.
So I buy one of these today, and it's like a present that I get that just keeps on giving. I get all these new features for free.
Yeah. So all that stuff that we've been talking about is free. Yeah.
Amazing. Edward, I am
for the small
not
price
sending
of a
this
bird
back.
dog, so.
Yeah, for the small price of a bird dog. That's an amazing commitment. That is an amazing commitment. So it's going to be a flock of bird dogs and not a pack of bird dogs?
Maybe we'll put it out to the chat group. We can decide that today.
Yeah, that's right. Got to get this stuff figured. Sometimes terminology is the hardest part. Well, not really. You guys already know what the hardest part is, and that is doing what you've done. Dan, this is just amazing. This is amazing. I held one in my hand at NAB this year when I was out there at NAB with the VMix guys. Somewhere Tim had gotten a hold of one, I guess from you maybe, and brought it over, and they said it was a prototype. And I was so impressed, but I wasn't allowed to use it because it needed a firmware update. But I'm using this sucker. Yes, indeed.
It works. Yep.
Wow. Loving it. And it looks like I can take it apart, too. Oh, this is good. This is good. All right.
Just pull the important bits out and send it back.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's a lot lighter coming back than it was going out. That's right. All right. Well, Dan, let's wrap up the show, and then we'll go to the post show, and we'll let the guys pepper you with questions. But what else can you share about this or about BirdDog that we need to know?
Sure. I think probably the biggest thing is BirdDog is a brand, and Studio NDI is the product. So that gives you some clues that we're not done with just making our product. We've got some other cool stuff coming out as well. So
this is the Studio NDI.
Correct. Yep.
Yes. Here it says it right there. BirdDog Studio NDI. Got it. All right. So that means there's more to come. I love this.
There is more to come. Yes.
This is so exciting. Oh, this is so great. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
okay.
we love IP and we love NDI, and I think there's NDI as a format has got a lot of legs to come, and we want to be part of that.
And you guys are the first one to the party like this. I mean, you're even there before New Tech is. That's amazing. I love it. What's your website?
We've had a lot of help from New Tech, I should say. So I deal with I talk with Andrew Cross very, very regularly, and they've been really supportive of us getting this working.
Yeah, Andrew doesn't return my calls, so next time you talk to him, tell him call Tom Sinclair. Quit ignoring him.
I will. I'll let him know. Yeah.
I'm looking for your website here on this box, and I don't see it. What is your website? What's your URL?
So it's bird-dog.tv.
bird-dog.tv. Yeah. Maybe I'm an idiot, but I don't see it. That's an improvement. We need to put the website on there somewhere.
Well,
and by the way, this is green in real life. And that's green in real life. It's not really blue. How about that? Okay. All right. Dan, you are a real champ. Thank you so much for getting up early and for being peppered with such absurd questions, but talking about such a great product as the BirdDog Studio NDI. This is a home run. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you've enjoyed the trip so far, and now you can sit back and and accept some of the rewards for it. So,
thank you. It has been great, and the support that we've had from people has been amazing as well. And I know there's been some frustration and some doubts as to whether we would actually get there. And look, we've been working on it the whole time, and we never had a doubt ourselves. But thanks for sticking with us, everybody, and not just looking the other way.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, folks.
In new news, the internet's just come back on in the office as well. So.
All right. Well, we're going to transition over to the post show. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube after the fact, and you're watching just the show, and you want to see the post show, go to our other YouTube video for the same date, because that's going to have the post show in it. It'll be really worthwhile. And if you've been watching us on YouTube directly, or Twitter, or Facebook, or Periscope, come on over to easternshorebroadcasting.com. There's Eastern Shore Broadcasting, and just add a .com to it, so that you can get in on the chat and pepper Dan with all those crazy questions that you've always wanted to ask. Like, is it a pack of bird dogs? Is it a flock of bird dogs? Whatever. All right, Dan, we're going to go to the post show, but we're going to close out this, if I can find the right closeout button. Dan, thanks so much. Everybody watching live,
thanks very much, Tom.
If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe. If you watched this long, you may as well subscribe. You're obviously hooked. We'll see you later. And let's turn Dan back on. All right, we are now officially in post-show. Woo! Let's see if we can find our post-show graphic here. And there we go, post-show. All right. Cool. Well, Dan, you did good. All right, so people are saying it would be a gaggle of bird dogs, a floozy of bird dogs, a flack of bird dogs.
A flack? Yeah. Ooh. There's some good ones there. I'm going to have to look at this.
Okay, folks that are watching, that are in chat, if you've asked a question and it's scrolled way past your question, go back and copy it and bring it down and paste it again so we can get it, because we might miss it, and it might be the question that leads Dan on to the next killer feature that he wants to incorporate into the studio NDI from BirdDog.
Yeah, for sure. I'd have to say that a lot of the features that we put in there has been through conversations with people. So anything that you come up with, let us know. It might end up in there.
Dave suggests a mile of bird dogs.
Let's use that one.
And Jerome has posted the URL. Thank you, Jerome. Guido asks, will you be at IBC in Amsterdam?
We will, absolutely. We've got our own booth. We're actually right next to the VMix booth. So it's Hall 6, C11 is the booth number. It's C11.
Okay.
Yep.
Prashana, who's in Nepal, wants to know how he can get a bird dog in Nepal. Do you have an international distributor?
That is a great question. We do. We actually use UBS out of Beijing is probably your closest. If you want to just send us an email either through the website or just dan@birddog.tv, so the URL above, and just Dan is my email address. I can run an introduction for that one.
Okay. All right. Good. RJ is asking about the headset icon.
About the headset, yes. So that's been there. We snuck it in around about 9 months ago. It was one of the later things in there, and that's actually, again, one of these conversations we've had with people. And with that, it's been there as a bit of a placeholder, but we've got some good plans coming with that. I don't want to give away anything just yet, but we should be in a position to talk more about that at IPA.
All right.
It's coming though. There will be some headset activities coming soon.
All right. Jan is asking about the USB connection, if there are other uses for that besides plugging in an internet jack.
Look, right now that's the one that we've configured and qualified. There is a bunch of things we can do with it. We're looking at actually enabling an RS422 or a serial control as well. So that will work with other types of PTZ or robotics for cameras. So that's something we're looking at implementing.
Gotcha. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, here's the big one right here. Jan, who I will say is the founder of our Streaming Idiots Facebook group. So we'll give him kudos for that. But Jan has to say that he's sorry he doubted you guys would pull this off. Because he was one of the ones that was less than positive, shall we say, about this happening. But he's very impressed with your
we've got to have something to prove
work.
to people, don't we? It probably kept us going. So
there you go.
If everyone thought it was easy, then maybe we might have given up. But no, it definitely was. It took longer than we hoped, and it was harder than we expected. But I think the result is definitely worth it. So thanks for sticking around and having the time to listen to me talk today and have a look at it. So.
Well, and I think Jan is glad to eat those words because he was secretly cheering and rooting for you guys to be successful because this is just such a wonderful concept. All right, Kane with New Tech says, are there plans to support the input of non-video resolutions on HDMI, i.e. computer displays and high refresh rates?
Yeah, so we support some of those now, and there'll be more coming. So the HDMI implementation we have can support slightly larger than 1920 by 1080 than full HD. It'll do up to the 1920 by 1200 computer resolution, and then a whole bunch of mixed ones below that. And we'll support pretty much all of those. We'll be adding those along as the firmware goes. We support some now. Some computer resolutions other than standard video ones, but you'll see more and more of those come through the firmware updates as we kind of work on the scaling and getting that happening. But the answer is yes, we will support options on HDMI.
Okay. All right. Now, the next question is from Rafael. And I'm going to just say, some people are just not satisfied ever. Doesn't matter how many features you put in, they're not satisfied. And his question is, why USB? Why not a second RJ45 plug?
Yeah, it's a good question, really, because, firstly, space, a USB plug from a board, there's not much room in there. But also, on top of that, it gives us some flexibility. USB being a universal bus, we can plug other things in. So as much as right now it makes sense to have an Ethernet connector in there, if we get this serial connection for robotics for other people, that makes a whole lot of sense. Or maybe there's some other things that we can plug in there down the track. If we bake in Ethernet, that's all it's ever going to do.
Right.
We want to make it so we can do more and more things down the track.
Love it. I love it. There's a reason for it, guys. A reason for it. All right. Kenny asks, with an SDI camera input, does the HDMI output work as a place to plug in a monitor, or would it have to be SDI out?
It does. So that's a part of the BirdDog is it's actually a mini converter or a cross converter. So it will actually take SDI in and HDMI out, or HDMI in and SDI out.
Gotcha. Or HDMI in and out and SDI in and out.
Correct. Yeah.
You can't hook both inputs up at the same time.
Not yet.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Not yet. He just squeaks these little things out there, like, oh yeah. We've already thought of that. All right. Let's see. Giles asks, is this USB 3 or USB 2?
It's actually USB 2, so you've got a maximum of just over 450 megabits. So it's not a full gigabit connection.
Okay.
It will synchronize at gigabit, but the maximum from an NDI stream perspective, the maximum you'll get is probably half what you'd expect from a normal gigabit connection.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good question. I saw it was black and not blue, and that was
yeah.
That's
it's
what
a bit of a giveaway. So
yeah. All right. I think most everybody out there is just stunned. I mean, they're just like, why would somebody like Dan come on Tom's show? I mean, he's slumming. He's going into the depths of the slums.
Not at all.
To be
I'm honored.
on this. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's what they all say, and then they never return my calls afterwards. Okay, let's see. Jan is saying the USB can also connect the USB fan to ensure that the camera operator is not too hot. So does the USB have power?
Look, it's a funny comment, but it's a good point. It doesn't have a huge amount of power. You can actually use it to, which is actually an interesting use case. You can use it to power a GoPro, for example. So you could have one cable coming into the BirdDog through power over Ethernet, power going out to your GoPro, and HDMI coming back, and it's self-powering with one cable, and you get a video signal back. As far as using anything that's really high power, it's not going to power a spinning hard drive or anything like that. There's limited amount of power in there. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
All right, Ken, I'm not sure if I understand Ken's question yet. We may have already asked and answered this. It says, what if you could use both inputs and have separate NDI streams? So I guess he's saying an SDI input that would go out over this connection, the RJ45 here, and a HDMI connection that would go out over the USB to Ethernet connection here. So basically...
Yeah, so the Ethernet connection is kind of almost by the by. With NDI, it can go out whatever network connection you have. And that's true with any NDI implementation. It's just how it works. And in fact, if you plug both of those network connections into your network, NDI will automatically load balance across those two connections, which is kind of cool if you needed a few extra streams to come out.
Wow.
So really the question goes back to the whether we can do SDI and HDMI at the same time. And the hardware is being designed with everything being independent. So each input goes into the processor independently, same with the outputs, which is why we can do all of this fancy stuff. And the intention absolutely is to add that ability to take both at the same time and encode SDI and HDMI together.
Got it. Love it. Love it. All right, let's see. Dan asks Tom who. We can see who I'm taking off my Christmas list for this year, Dan. This is a different Dan. This is Dan with PI Engineering, the makers of X Keys.
Okay.
He moonlights nights and weekends as a comedian. Don't quit your day job yet, PI Engineering.
Just working on his material. So.
That's right. Okay. Giles is saying from the UK that you've created a wonderful device and a wonderful, beautiful, and superbly versatile device. Thank you. I want as many as I can get my hands on. Okay.
I like that.
There you go.
Thanks, Giles. I'll be in touch.
And Giles is the one of the many hosts of the World of Live Streaming show, which originates most of the time originates over in the UK. Sometimes it originates from Sweden, and sometimes from Belgium, and sometimes from the U.S. It just sort of passes around. Jan is saying, and I don't understand why you would want to do this, but can you hook up a webcam to the USB jack here?
Look, that's not something that we've worked on, no. So
Okay.
I'm not sure we'll go down that path. I'd be interested to understand why, but at this stage, it's certainly not what we're working on.
Right. Okay. All right. Henry wants to take Ken's question further and say, is it possible to have the same kind of box like this with 4 simultaneous inputs for HDMI or SDI? Essentially a 4-port.
Yeah. So I guess that comes back to what I sort of said at the end of the show, which was that the BirdDog's brand and Studio NDI is the product. So we've got some more products coming out, and it's not something that we're announcing from. I'm not saying yes, we're going to have a 4-channel BirdDog, but there's going to be other NDI implementations that we'll come up with. So stay tuned.
That's a non-denial denial if I've ever heard one, or a non-agreement agreement.
I tried.
Yeah, that's all right. All right.
I said nothing.
Yeah, that's right. That's so. All right. So Ken says it could eventually be a dual NDI encoder decoder.
Yeah, that's what the hardware's been designed for. So,
Gotcha.
so it's not something that we can enable in the firmware just yet.
Right.
But that's certainly where we're heading with the firmware to be able to do NDI from both SDI and HDMI simultaneously.
Okay.
In this hardware, in the one that you've got in your hand. So.
Gotcha. Jens, who I think is in Sweden, is coming to IBC, and he looks forward to meeting you there.
Look forward to meeting you too.
He's a young whippersnapper, but you need to pay attention to him. He's a forward thinker. Let's see. Rich is very interested with the PTZ integration. When do you think you'll have this feature available?
So the Ethernet loop out and everything works now. So if you wanted to plug a PTZ in with an Ethernet adapter, we can get that up and running right away.
Right away.
Yeah.
Do I have to have a BirdDog brand USB adapter?
No, we'll have there's a list of supported adapters.
Okay.
We were going to go down a path of having our own, but realistically, computer shops have got USB adapters. We thought we might as well just stick with that. So we'll have a list of supported ones.
Gotcha. Okay. Let's see. A guest who just gave me their phone number instead of their name wants to know what the latency is. We didn't talk about that earlier, but the latency is one of the real strengths of the whole NDI concept. Is the latency gets cut down to a frame. Maybe.
Yeah, that's right. So NDI itself is just on a frame of latency. And look, I'm just going to say right now, this firmware we've got at the moment on here adds one more frame in there, which we will be taking out. It's just the way the firmware works at the moment. But I'm sure most people would agree that just over a frame is pretty quick to go through the network, and all the flexibility you get around that. So.
Yeah, here is a test that I did last week using this BirdDog. And I tested it against basically the same camera with SDI out at the same time. And so there was, what is the difference there? About 70 milliseconds. So that's going to be about 2.5 frames somewhere in there, the difference between SDI and the BirdDog with NDI.
Like I said, there's some updates coming that will reduce that. So still pretty quick anyway, but
still pretty amazing. Yes, that's right. When you're talking about 6/100ths of a second, yeah. Yep. Let's see. Kane says, is it NDI PTZ protocol? I'm not sure what that means.
Yeah, so that's actually a cool one. So with NDI 3.0, there's actually a PTZ protocol built into it, similar to the Tally protocol. So right now we're not using that. It is just a pass-through. So you would still use the TriCaster or vMix or whatever you use for your PTZ control to use it through its traditional Ethernet method. But as Kane sort of points out, there is actually an NDI PTZ protocol that's just been announced with version 3, which is going to make, again, that kind of zero configuration thing that I was talking about with Tally. That's coming for PTZ as well. So.
Yeah, and what happens about this time in the post show is these guys have gotten lots of ideas from you. And they're not asking questions anymore. They're not even listening to us. They're discussing amongst themselves. Well, if this means this and this means that, then we can do this, and this, except we can't do that until he implements this feature. And then, and so we've lost half the audience already. But for the ones that are paying attention still, we're going to go forward. Let's see. Jan asks, are you planning a version with battery and wireless?
Look, at this stage, what we've got in that box, I don't really encourage people to pull it apart, but it's pretty full in there. So to fit a battery in there, while it's very low power, it uses around about 4 watts of power.
would be quite difficult to kind of squeeze in there. Here we go.
It's amazing what you can do with a dum-dum.
And I guess coming back to the wireless thing, that's really where something like an NDI HX implementation could be useful, because working with NDI in its high bitrate format, it gives you the really high quality, stability, really low latency, all the stuff that you like for a production.
Right.
But if you try and send that really high bitrate, low latency video over a Wi-Fi network, it can be a little bit rubbery, and you can potentially get some drop frames and things which are not particularly nice. So NDI HX does handle that sort of lower bitrate encoding in a much nicer fashion. So right now, as we mentioned, the Spark will work with NDI HX. We're looking at whether we can implement that, but for something on a drone, given the fact you can't tether it with an Ethernet cable, you need to look at something wireless. It's going to be something that people will have to test out, how wireless works, even with HX in the real world. So,
all right, there have been a series of other questions, and I'm going to kind of reframe them. And by the way, any question that has to do with price, I'm ignoring. So if you've asked a question about pricing, we're not even going there at this point. Are you considering a smaller form factor?
Look, I'd love to. Every time we were working through the design of this was trying to make it smaller and smaller. And if you look at the edge there, just physically fitting, where are we up there? Physically fitting those connectors, there's really not much room to make it any smaller with everything in here. And we sort of see this as in a lot of ways, it's kind of the flagship product where it does everything.
Right.
And so you might see that there's perhaps we can make a smaller one, but it won't do everything that this does, because we just physically can't fit all the connectors and everything in there.
Right.
But look, right now we're not sort of in the process of announcing or releasing another product. We're just about to ship this one. So. Let's get this one out first. So.
Guido suggested that if you do that, you could rename it the Bird Puppy. If it would be just a smaller
I do like all these names we're getting.
BirdDog.
This is good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Kane from New Tech says he's got to go. He will see you again soon. Jan is suggesting that you could make a mini model by skipping the second HDMI and SDI. I guess the outputs as well as Jan, they've already thought about that stuff. Don't bother them anymore. Just leave them alone. Leave them alone. Tommy wants to know where the snacks are. Generally, we have snacks during the post-show. Whoever shows up last for the show has to bring snacks.
Right.
And so typically it's mixed nuts, which is the content.
It's too early in the
chat
day
room.
for me for mixed nuts. So.
Yeah.
I'm just going straight for coffee after this. So.
Kenny said, would it make sense to put a 1/20th on both the top and the bottom to connect the tripod and then the camera? Yeah, Kenny, I think he mentioned that earlier in the show, that they were coming up with a solution to mount it horizontally.
Yeah, exactly. So so we've got a solution to mount it horizontally, and there's already the 1/4-20s on the two skinny sides there. So.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. A bunch of people are going to see you at IBC, it looks like. This is good. All right. So, we're going to have this sucker taken apart by tonight. Yeah. We're going to clone it. We're going to send all the parts off to China and say, make us a copy of this.
Make one of these, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You got to
we dare you.
You got to think up some cool name. Yeah, go on. See how long it takes them. I reckon about 17 months.
Yeah, if you're lucky. Why is it all these great ideas come from Australia? I mean, there's you guys.
Look, I don't know. I think
there's Blackmagic. There's vMix. I mean, just some really major players.
Yeah, there's Atomos as well. There's
right?
There's a whole bunch of So I think it's probably got a bit to do with just our if no one else is going to do it, I'll just give it a what could go wrong kind of attitude. So yeah, we just kind of tend to, if we see a problem, just go, well, there's got to be some way of fixing it, and maybe that just comes from us being so far away from everyone notionally. We have to kind of try and fix our problems and come up with ideas.
So if you were in New York,
Either that or we're just crazy. So
you would have. Yeah, that's right.
yeah.
Well, they say that Australians were all former convicts from the UK or something like that, or
Yeah, something like that. That's where modern Australia's come from.
Yeah. All right. I think the chat room has devolved into bad jokes, and unless you guys have got some more good ideas. Rich, my friend Rich Ignacio does jet ski racing. And
wow, that sounds fun.
He films it, he broadcasts it, and he's had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of viewers of his shows. And every weekend he's flying to a different body of water somewhere, whether it's the Atlantic or the Pacific or the Gulf of Mexico or the Great Lakes or lakes and rivers all over the U.S. And so he's constantly in the air with his equipment. And some equipment that we've sold him over the years. And so, he's looking at this as, is this a way to lighten my load? Is this a way for me to do things that I'm not doing right now? And he's commented that Australia, where you are, and Alabama, where I am, are the center of the live streaming universe. So thank you, Rich. Yeah.
We're the center, just very far apart from each other. So.
Yeah, that's right. That's on opposite poles of the center. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, okay. Jan wants me to ask you what an FPGA is.
All right, yeah. So, look, it's kind of it's pretty nerdy, is what it is. But it's the way that we can do what we're doing. Its technical term is field programmable gate array. And so what that is basically it's a blank chip that we program it to do what we like. So where traditionally, if you're using a vMix, I think, and that's a computer that runs Windows, which runs software to do different things. And the software defines what that computer can do. What an FPGA does is it goes a step below that, where the actual hardware is flashed to do something particular. So in an FPGA, in our case, we've had to write that chip to do NDI, and it does nothing else. So the moment it's turned on, its only job in life is to take video and make it into NDI. So there's no way it can get confused or get bogged down with doing other stuff. It doesn't have to run Windows. It doesn't have to run all that stuff. So it can be very power efficient, very small. And that's what we've done, is made this product that's extremely power efficient, extremely small, but full of features that are designed purely for NDI. So that FPGA is what allows us to do that. And that's the bit that took us a significant amount of time. It's no small feat to program a chip at chip level to do NDI. So we've had to effectively write NDI again from the ground up, making sure that we're fully compliant with NDI to go into a piece of hardware.
Are you going to license this chip?
Look, that's an interesting one. So like I said, we've spent a long time getting this working, and there's certainly opportunities that we'd love to talk about around licensing a product. As far as the chip itself, it just depends on what opportunities come up. We think NDI definitely should be available in a lot more places than what it is, and that's certainly happening at a very fast pace. But if there's anything we can do to make it happen faster, we're definitely down for it.
So if I'm Canon or Panasonic or Sony, and I call you and I say, I want to put your chip...
I was about to say, my mobile number is...
We want to write you a check to put your chip in our camera. You would do that?
Look, it's certainly a conversation that we'd love to have. Yeah. So there's a lot to do. NDI is a little bit tricky in that it's we make an NDI compliant product. So in order to make someone else's product NDI compliant, there wouldn't be as well. But it's certainly something we'd love to talk about.
Okay. Sony and Panasonic watch us regularly, so I suspect that the phone call or the email will be coming very soon.
Excellent. I'll wait for it.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, what was it? Who was it? Panasonic. We trashed Panasonic pretty roughly. We treated them very roughly on this show because they announced that their camera was NDI compatible, which meant that if you were running one of NewTek's free apps on your PC and you had a capture card, you could plug their SDI cable in, and it would become an SDI, an NDI resource. And so we did a parody where I took my Jack Russell Terrier and I connected him via Ethernet. And I had an NDI compatible Jack Russell Terrier using the NewTek tool set. And I didn't hear too much. I didn't hear too much from Panasonic on that promotion after that. I mean, it sort of dropped out of sight. They realized maybe we're a bunch of idiots in the PR department. We need to let the engineers handle this part. All right. NDI leash is what we called it. That's right. Last question, and then we'll cut you loose so you can go out and get some breakfast.
That's cool.
Does the BirdDog make coffee?
I wish, because I really need some right now. I was up at 3:15 this morning. So.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But no, sadly it doesn't. It's a good feature though. I reckon we should definitely do that. Us
definitely
Aussies do like coffee as well. So.
Yeah, and I can't figure out where the CD fits in here, so it'll take me a while to figure that one out. Dan, you've been a real trooper. Thank you so much for coming on the show and so early in the morning. And we, on behalf of all the guys in the chat room and the folks that are going to watch this show later, we really do wish you tremendous success with this product and all the other products that you're coming down. And personally, I look forward to meeting you at some point in the future and wishing you well in person. So thank you.
Thanks very much for having me, Tom. It's been great. And thanks for everyone in the chat room as well. It's been some good suggestions and also some fun. So.
Yep. Good. All right, guys,
Awesome.
We're going to cut Dan loose. No more questions. If you have questions, you can reach out to him directly at BirdDog. If you're with Sony or Panasonic or JVC or Canon, you can reach Dan directly. No sense in going through me. I'll just take a percentage, and you don't want to do that. So Dan, you're getting a lot of thanks and kudos there in the chat room.
I'm seeing that. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy that, and enjoy the NAB award that you're going to be receiving and the IBC award that you're going to be receiving in the future. We know that all sorts of success is coming to you. Great.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. I will let you disconnect.
Cheers.
And I will wrap up with this rambunctious group. And let's see, we got Jesper showed up late, better late than not at all. And Rich, of course, and Dave, and Kent is here. Peter, Martin, Guido, Martin K. Thank you, Martin. Martin, I've got an email from you from like 4 or 5 weeks ago about audio that I've kept, and I knew I was going to have to read through it more closely, and so I apologize for not getting back to you on that one. Let's see, Rafal, Prashana, Edward, Ford, the generous donator to Streaming Idiots of a BirdDog Studio NDI, guest 666, welcome, Bill, Jens, Kelvin, Alex, Clint, Rick, welcome. And Rick, I love reading your series on producers and camera ops lately. If you guys haven't discovered Rick, he's with the Webcasters page on Facebook. You want to check that out. Tommy's here, Kenny, Ken, Andreas, Daniel, Giles, Rudy, guest 227. And remember, if you put a guest number in, we're assuming that means something specifically. So you'll have to tell us what 227 means. Rion is here, Jerome, Indrick, Joe, Johnny, Chris, Martin Stuckey. Martin, you need to send me an email and tell me how the cameras that we sent to Switzerland are doing. I know you were hanging them up in the curling arena. Would love to know how that went. William Lee, Paul, Jerome, Frank. Let's see, did I miss some folks? Oh yeah, there's some more down there. Jan, Mike, Johnny, Rod, Henry, Udall, and of course we know Marie was here earlier. Hat tip to all of you guys. Thanks for coming today. And for those of you that are watching us on Facebook, on Periscope, Twitter, and YouTube directly, thank you for tuning in. Next week, I'm looking at my guest list, and my guest list is absolutely blank. I was so excited about having Dan on today, and Larry last week, and Kurt the week before that I have not been pursuing guests. So if you're interested in being a guest, you can send an email to Dan at BirdDog TV, because he's still there lurking.
Yeah, I'm still watching.
That's right. So we might do a studio tour next week. We did just get a shipment of cameras in from Marshall Electronics, so we may talk about that. We do have a BirdDog here that we probably need to actually review and pound on it and try to break it here. And we've got, what else do we have? We've got the WIDA wireless system that we haven't reviewed yet. So we've got lots of product here that we need to do something with, so we can either return or sell or clone. So I'll put this in my cloning machine and see what happens. All right, folks, we'll call it a day. Dan, you're a prince. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
And
I'm going to hang up now.
Okay, later.
Okay.
And guys, we're
See
going to
ya.
let this we'll let this run out for a few minutes so you guys won't be cut off immediately. But otherwise, we will see you next week with a great show. We just don't know how great, because we don't know what it's going to be. Anyway, take care. Go stream something incredible, huh? And come on to the Streaming Idiots group and tell us about it. All right. Bye now.